TUK by George Adams. Continued. Chapter 14. I got back to the hotel and thought about a massage, but the nostalgie debout wasn't working too well that afternoon, so I just had a swim instead. The pool was freezing, and I didn't stay in long. The towels were the same, but they were grimy and scratched, as you rubbed yourself down. The changing room looked like a low-life massage parlour, and the lockers were falling apart through lack of maintenance. I wondered how long the Hyatt had to go before it was knocked down and turned into the Power of Greek 2. I entered the lobby feeling reasonably refreshed when I saw her. There aren't a lot of long-limbed blondes hanging around the lobbies in Macau. They get snapped up fairly quickly wherever they sit. This one I'd spotted down at the pool, and I put her in the category of visiting expat wife who couldn't get in at the Mandarin. Wives like that usually have the hubby close at hand, or they have a couple of kids in attendance. After I emerged from the bookshop, which now looked like a friendship store in 1980s China, she was still there, reading a magazine with her eyes, but it was clear her mind was elsewhere. I sat down and reached for my pipe. She looked up and smiled. A beautiful smile with an oval face and liquid blue eyes, and that natural glow girls get when they've been swimming hard. "Marina Alanskaya," she said, and offered a hand which was long, devoid of nail polish and as soft as silk. I held on to the hand longer than was necessary. "Nice weather we've been having, Miss Alanskaya." She smiled again. I went on with the deadly Trelford repartee. "Starting a bit early, aren't you? This place is as dead as disco. You'd be much better off working the Power of Greek. A girl like you can get laid from breakfast to late dinner there." "Oh, so direct. You spoil my mood. And I do not work such low-class places. The men all smell of garlic and ginger. Disgusting." It's a disgusting world, this part of it anyway. Care for a coffee? The cafe here probably changes the beans every week in low season. She laughed, a high tinkling laugh like bells running up a scale. I'd heard a laugh like that before. Perhaps all the really pretty girls have it. "Good heavens, such a fast worker. It's impossible to refuse." And we installed ourselves in the cafeteria, which was practically empty apart from a couple of old Chinese ladies studying newspapers and fortifying themselves with cream cake. "Look, honey, I need a girl right now as much as a kick in the face. No offense, but if you're looking for a customer, I'd really be wasting your time." "Never heard of the day off? Or don't they have days off in England?" Day off? I wondered what Russian hookers in Macau did on their day off, if it wasn't paying off the pimps and tending to their bruises. "Well, I'm really pleased you choose me to spend your leisure time with. Is the country club being renovated?" She laughed again, a lower-pitched tinkle this time. "Tell me, Marina, where do you hang out usually?" "The Tower. I also have a room there." "The Tower? Never heard of it." "Oh, it's the best. You have to see it. Very small and intimate for serious players." "And full of Russian ladies like yourself?" "Well, where else do you expect us to go? Hang around the Sands car park?" I wonder if old Forsgate met his nemesis down there. Forsgate? Andy Forsgate was a charming but libidinous Australian barrister who had fallen in love years ago with a Muscovite hooker in Macau and had tried to buy her free of the Russian mafia in Vladivostok, of all places. The money he put up hadn't worked for him, as he was found in an oil barrel near the docks just as work was picking up in his chambers. We all liked to think he had died happy. The girl was never heard of again. Before your time, I expect. A lot of things happened before my time. An accident of birth, you could say. Your English is very good, and you know how to use it. I studied it, and I am pleased to be able to use it with someone who can follow what I have to say. She smiled a million pataka, or perhaps a million ruble smile. I'd lost touch with exchange rates of late. I'm sure Andy's honey trap was a lot more tongue-tied. As you like, but I still haven't a clue what you're on about. 2 idioms in 1 sentence. Quite a gal. I always got top marks for oral. Well, you don't have a chance here. Thank your boss anyway. I'll call at the tower tonight and thank him in person if I may. I don't have any money, but I have a lot of collateral. She laughed again, but it was definitely in the lower registers for her. Then she placed a discreet card with the tower's address on it in my hand. There was lunch to be thought about and a brisk walk down the road to what remained of Taipa's food street. That was in order. Looking in on the supermarket, which sold pipe tobacco for 1/3 of Hong Kong prices, but you had to wake up one of the shop assistants to open the glass door. They keep it behind, next to the whiskies and more expensive ports. I'd never seen a pipe smoker in Macau, so you had to look hard at the sell-by dates. Most of it looked all right, so I bought a dozen tins of Erinmore and a pack of Borkum Riff for light tongue-burning relief. I was on holiday after all. Added to that was the thought that if I was going to be bumped off, I ought to at least look solvent. Of course, I was being followed. These guys were real amateurs. They'd been sitting around the lobby, both rather short and skinny, and looking ill at ease in oversized suits and platform shoes. I wondered what they did the rest of the time, probably collecting the kickbacks from the taxi and minibus drivers, but they wouldn't be able to use much muscle. Now they were following me with all the aplomb of a navvy at Ascot, fiddling with their portable phones, staring aimlessly in the other direction. That was the apex of their cover moves when I glanced their way. Perhaps that was the aim of it all, to make certain I knew I was being followed. If so, the mastermind behind them had struck the jackpot. I was just poking my first cod ball in Pinocchio's when my phone rang. It was my man near the Leal Senado. Adeline had shown up and was checking her email. She was alone, looked smart and well. I hadn't expected otherwise. Perhaps she was the one who had sent the 2 goons who were now pretending to drink beer at the bar. I feel sorry for them, so I think I would give them something to do. After lunch, I left some banknotes to cover the bill on my table and went to the toilet. It was down a little corridor, and the kitchen door was open on the way. At the end of the corridor, there was what looked like a delivery door, where an old lady was scrubbing away at dishes in a plastic bucket, just like they do in Hong Kong. I simply strolled past her out onto the lane outside, did a neat turn to the left, and I was back in the main street before the goons had realized what was going on. I went to the square at the end of the street and found a taxi. It sped off without a sign of my 2 tails anywhere. The Leal Senado was filling up for the height of the shopping afternoon. Gangs of atavistic mainlanders, apparently bred in captivity and only now glimpsing the daylight, mingled with the throng. Adeline was there now, wearing red and black, my man had told me, so I decided to stroll around the pedestrian zone and see if I could spot her. I was wondering what Adeline shopped for, or indeed whether she shopped at all. Was she like the mainlanders, who apparently treated shops outside the home country like some Ark of Truth, which they had only 5 minutes in their lives to raid and be barred from forever? What else could account for their odd selection of shoes, blouses, handbags, jackets, all mismatched, like a schizophrenic going to a fancy dress party? I'd started looking again. Bad idea. Oh, to breathe again the charm of old Macau, to scent the silk stockings of the dockside gals of the 1960s who made Susie Wong look like Mrs. Pankhurst, to see the old nullers with their cat corpses and the occasional dead body, to glimpse the fat, libidinous Portuguese priests giving their benedictions to the huddling masses of opium-inhaling peasants, to cut a sway through the pirates and renegades and fortune-seekers of the poisonous Pearl River Delta, to sip some Dawn and eat some civet cat, the latter hauled from the cage you saw as you entered the restaurant, before it was lightly killed in the villainous, pestilence-filled restaurant by some scabby, grasping cook taking time off from his brothel keeping and gun running, to breathe again the air of 100,000 despairs and 1,000,000 blind hopes, to truly be in the old East and see life in the raw. But prosperity had come to town, and branches of all the consumer icons had taken up residence. People eschewed congee and noodles and now drank homogenized coffee at Starbucks and ate totally recovered meat topped with plastic cheese at Burger King. There were only the ghosts to sense and the bizarre followers of the new to amuse and make you think. Perhaps Cambodia or Vietnam or Laos were for the true seekers of sensation and the old ways in the East now, but soon they too would be swallowed up by the march of reasoned globalization. Pull yourself together, Trelford. You just aren't human today. My phone rang, and I slid it open to answer. It was the voice of Adeline, somewhere in the ether, rescuing me from my melancholy, the authoress, if only she knew it, of a new chapter of romance and adventure for one particular jaded hack called Nigel Piers. Perhaps. "Welcome to Macau, Mr. Trelford." I said nothing for a moment. "Pleased to be where you are, Adeline, if indeed you are in Macau." "Oh, I am. Whatever brings you here?" "Tying up a few loose ends." "Well, beware they don't tie you up in the end." "Have you any idea who you're dealing with?" "That's one of the mysteries I hope to solve." "You've certainly got guts and a charmed life." "Not as charmed as yours, I'm sure." "When are you going to tell me all about it?" "Where are you staying?" "At the old Hyatt on Taipa. You must be the last person in town to know." She laughed a laugh that could have meant anything. "You're becoming vaguely interesting to me. I'll come round and see you very soon. Don't turn off your phone." And she was gone. I was left standing there in the middle of a group of tourists from what seemed to be Mongolia, or at least the Gobi. They were quite astounded to see me, and I felt that if I lingered any longer, they would extend hesitant palms to touch the hair on my arms and peer deeply into my mutant blue eyes. I found a record shop, and they had discs I had been eager to buy for years, but had never been able to find anywhere, the complete Dvorak string quartets played by the Prague Quartet. I'd naturally downloaded them all, but in a late homage to the ugly Czech who had been born at the right time, the right place, and was thus able to have all the intensity of Beethoven and all the rhythm and melody of folk music, I bought the compact discs and left the shop with much more satisfaction than I had had for days. Sometimes in your life, you do something right.